welcome to everybody. We're delighted to be able to host this webinar on cybersecurity. A brief overview of who we are as a business, being the Learning People. So we started in 2010. Started in the UK, although I'm Australian myself, and we subsequently set up an office in Australia, New Zealand in 2018, which Mike Gear runs as the general manager for that business. We are all about making sure that we're able to provide careers in tech for people through sensible learning pathways. And when I say sensible learning pathways, we're really dedicated to make sure that the skills that we teach and train are what industry demands. And of course, that's often following a certification pathway, just to make sure that when people get into a role in tech, they're able to fulfill the duties that you'd expect to be fulfilled for the roles that we're putting people in. Now, there's no question with over 25,000 students across the world, no question that there's huge demand in cybersecurity. In fact, it is our #1 career program that we put people through. And I know that the other panelists will speak shortly around the demand for cybersecurity professionals, but it remains unabated. And one statistic that sticks in my head so clearly is 0% unemployment across the globe. This is an incredible opportunity for people to take a really positive step into a career that would be incredibly fulfilling, not just financially, but also in being able to make a real impact and difference to people. I don't want to spend too much time talking about Learning People from my side at this point. I would just like to say we're delighted again to have you, and I'll just quickly make some introductions. We have Michael Gear from Learning People ANZ. Hello, Mike. We've got Julia Gear, who heads up our career services, and that's the part of the business that helps people into careers in tech, and it's a very, very important part of our strategy. We have Philip Blake, who is the regional director for EC Council, and we have John O'Cox, who heads up our marketing across the globe. Enough from me. I think you're up, Pip.
Perfect, great. Well, thank you very much for the intro. So thanks very much for joining, everyone. I've got about a 20-minute slot to fly through about 20 slides and also do a demonstration for you of one of the labs that that is already the Certified Ethical Hacking course. And what I want to cover off briefly is sort of a quick introduction to us, run through a few examples of what's going on in the cybersecurity threat landscape, run the demo, and then sort of cover off sort of who is looking for cyber professionals and why. And if we'll have time at the end, we've got please ask a few questions throughout the course of the presentation, and we'll try to address them at the end, either sort of by myself or by the Learning People. And if your question doesn't get answered, we will be what we'll do is I'll try to we usually get about 50 or 60 questions, which does take a while. We'll sort of answer them by email at the end for you. But in terms of who EC Council are, so globally we're the largest cybersecurity training and certification provider. We've sort of delivered training for a number of three-letter organisations, the FBI, NSA, et cetera, and work with governments and large blue chip companies around the world on sort of building their cybersecurity capacity. We've trained over 230,000 members, or we have over 230,000 certified members. So we like to think we know what we're talking about when it comes to all things cyber security. So in terms of the threat landscape, you can't really pick up a newspaper today without seeing some way, shape or form of a cyber attack or data fraud that has occurred over the last or in recent times, and especially given sort of what's going on with COVID-19. I think there are some statistics which basically state that attacks have increased by up to 400%. Quite why, I'm not sure, but ultimately that is, in these sort of times of in these sort of slightly harder times, hackers have become even more proactive, playing on the fear, uncertainty, and doubt which is out there. But the World Economic Forum sees cyber attacks growing at an unprecedented level, and so much so that they are categorized with natural disasters. Excuse me. Sneezing in the middle of a breath. Thank you. Hay fever season. In terms of in terms of sort of the increasing impact and also the likelihood of cyber attacks, it has grown sort of to a position where previously they were reasonably unheard of, and now we're at a stage where they're more likely and can have a similar sort of impact to on critical national infrastructure as natural disasters. Examples of sort of, if we use an example which happened in the UK a few years ago, where hackers managed to bring down, sort of pretty much reduce 50, or one particular attack called WannaCry reduced the NHS, or 50% of the NHS back to the Stone Age, and using pen and pencil to sort of write out things, and they had to cancel thousands of operations. So the attacks on critical national infrastructure have increased. And in terms of the cost of cyber attacks, now if you look at some of the average costs here, all of them in the millions, and most in the tens of millions, and the percentage change is increasing. Now, there are a number of, if we look, maybe larger organizations would be able to absorb those sorts of costs, but small and medium enterprises, if you're looking at those tens of millions figures, you're looking at in some instances, the entire revenue of an organization. So we're seeing lots of organizations are folding from that, and there's a couple of examples on my next slide of that. So here we have the two examples that I use are Garmin and Travelex, and I will sort of PDF these slides and send them out to the learning people so that they can send them over to you. But I've got personal experience with Garmin, and in terms of I was using them, they fell victim to a ransomware attack, and they ended up paying $10 million to ransom, which we generally advise not to do. But I wasn't able to utilize their system. It was down for about 2.5 weeks, so I went to one of their competitors to sort of upload and track my cycling progress, which was pitiful during the lockdown, regardless. But all the same, they lost sort of my vote of confidence. And even a slightly more dramatic one is what happened with Travelex. I'm sure a number of you have heard of Travelex, or maybe even some of you have used them to sort of purchase holiday currency. They sort of suffered a huge cyber attack at the start of the year, and they didn't have any client-facing capability for about 2 to 3 weeks. I know individuals who were dealing with it inside Travelex, and it seemed like it was utter chaos. And in terms of now sort of because of the sort of COVID-19 pandemic, lots of individuals haven't been able to utilize they've obviously were hoping for a big bounce back, but no one is going on holiday or purchasing any currency. So as a result, they've gone into administration. A company which has been around for over 30, 40 years has been reduced to administration because of a cyber attack, and obviously the business conditions of COVID-19 as well. But there's a number of examples, and ultimately these are some of the bigger ones. But there are hundreds, if not thousands, of cyber attacks on a daily basis that you may not necessarily hear about. And because of this, governments have taken a huge cyber focus. So about 15 years ago, there were only 3 governments who had an offensive cyber capability. There are now 66 at the last count, maybe a couple more. But ultimately, so there is a huge emphasis on governments transitioning towards cyber, having an offensive cyber capability. And you guys, almost anyone on this call is pretty much part of the cure to that. We are the idea is to have to build a cybersecurity capacity, and in every single national cybersecurity strategy, there is sort of emphasis on ensuring that they're training the right professionals. There is an element of awareness at even the very lower levels. So in terms of those individuals on the call, you are part of the solution to the problem of transitioning into the cybersecurity industry. And the challenges are there is such a lack of available skilled cyber people power. And there's a slide in that I'll come on to a little bit later, where from IRC Squared, which showcases just how bad it is. But ultimately, our job with the likes of the learning people is to help fill that gap of cybersecurity security talent, and everyone on this call has the potential to be part of the solution of dealing with that huge shortage of cybersecurity person power. So I'm going to dive into, and hopefully I'll be able to switch screens relatively seamlessly. I'm going to do the cyber lab demo, which should hopefully have been loading in the background. Famous last words. And you should have switched to what looks like a social engineering module 9. Is that? Can we all see? Perfect. Excellent news. So I want to show you this because there's twofold. One, it's just to showcase to you how easy it is to launch a phishing attack, and also just to sort of give you the feel for our lab platform. So part of what we do with the learning people is, and what we emphasize is, it's not just the knowledge that we're trying to, the knowledge transfer that we're trying to work on in this particular instance, but it's also the skills and abilities. Our course, it should be about sort of 50 or is 50 to 60% hands-on. So you are utilizing the similar sort of tools, etc., that you'll be using on a day-to-day life of a in the day-to-day life of a cybersecurity professional. For those of you who are thinking, wow, hang on, is this too much? Am I jumping into something that I don't necessarily understand? There is a sort of step-by-step process which walks you through. So here we have, in this particular objective, we're looking to perform credential harvesting through a phishing email. It gives you the scenario, gives you examples, extra reading, etc., and then we can dive into the lab. And from as you can see, you've got the lab scenario, etc., and then there's instructions. So it walks you through, and even things as basic as what's the username, what's the password, step by step. And as I click on those, you can see that it goes through and the task complete. So it really is a step-by-step guide on how to do that particular practical element. And this is just one lab that I'm showing you of 140 in the Certified Ethical Hacker course. And all of our courses, instant handling, forensics, penetration testing, do have sort of a similar number of labs, so that you can get that hands-on practical experience. So I'm going to dive straight into the lab now. I don't need the instructions, and I think I've delivered this so many times. But what we're going to do is we can toggle between resources. So in this environment, you will have both victim machines and attack machines. So you can be the hacker, and you can also have to sort of play the role of the victim as well. So you get a look at it from sort of both sides of the coin, so to speak. So what we're going to be using is Kali Linux. So for those of you who don't know, Kali Linux is a penetration testing tool, which a number of cybersecurity professionals use. We're going to log in. I'm sure those of you saw the instructions. It's a root tool, a pretty standard login for Kali Linux. And as we'll be able to toggle between the resources, and you can sort of keep this in if you want to sort of farm out the instructions, hide them, and so you want to run through the lab without utilizing the instructions because you think you're good enough and you've mastered the lab, you can do. But in this particular lab, we're going to go in, utilize our social engineering toolkit, which, depending on internet speed, hopefully it's good enough, should load. I'm in this social engineering toolkit. So as I mentioned in the scenario, we want to do a credential harvesting exercise. So social engineering attack number 1, and it should take us to, goodness, right, well, my internet's particularly slow this morning. That's not great. Then we're going to do a website attack vector, and then we're going to use this number 3, a credential harvester attack method. Pretty self-explanatory stuff. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use a site cloner, number 2. So in this particular instance, we have something called moviescope.com. It's similar to like an Amazon Prime or a Netflix. Where ultimately we're trying to get the credentials, so the username, login, usernames and passwords of the individuals who are members of that website. It says here the IP address for the postback and the harvester tab nabbing. That is the IP address of this Kali Linux machine, so 10.10.10.11. All of this is featured in the instructions as it walks you through step by step. So 10.10.10.11. Press enter, and it asks us for the website we want to clone. And just to highlight, you can download Kali Linux. It is a free tool, but I would recommend please don't do this. This is a sandboxed environment, so a little disclaimer there. We will be sort of sending out this lab for individuals who are interested in doing it. But a little disclaimer: please don't download Kali Linux and do it yourself, because if you start sort of cloning Barclays or HSBC websites, the blue welly lights will turn up at your door. Little disclaimer just before we sort of carry on. But the website we're going to clone is something called moviescope.com. It's an EC Council owned website, and ultimately, I'm not sure how long you think it takes to clone a website, but it's all of about a second. So we've basically scraped off the front page and the login page of moviescope.com, and now that's everything we need to do on Kali Linux to launch. So that's pretty much 5 or 6 steps. Reasonably simple in order to sort of launch this particular attack. Now we're going to sort of play the role of the victim now. So what the hacker will now do is they will go onto sort of say the dark web. They will purchase a database of email addresses. Maybe they get lucky and find an email address dump for moviescope.com customers, and they will send out. They'll make an email look particularly pretty and say, oh, here's here's a sort of £10 voucher, all using all the legitimate logos. Please, please redeem this. Please go log in and redeem this code. They'll embed the hyperlink. Click here. The unsuspecting individual will then click on that link, and they will be taken to something which looks exactly like moviescope.com. Now you notice what I did was I typed in the hacker's IP address, so that the Kali Linux machine's IP address. Now what we'll do is we'll just log in. So say Philip, my password is QWERTY, log in. And for the eagle-eyed of you, you'll see in the URL bar, it's gone from 10.10.10.11 to moviescope.com. The unsuspecting individual will then log in as normal and think, oh right, how where's my £10 voucher? Oh, I've got a busy life. I can't really be bothered with this. I need to crack on. I'll deal with it later. And just for another example, so it's it's not a fluke. We'll do Patrick, and Patrick's password is password because Patrick's not that sensible. There we go. And so it's done it again. So if we now transition back to our Kali Linux box, and what you'll see there is so you've captured Philip's username and password, and we've captured Patrick's username and password as well. And it's really that easy. And if they've managed to purchase, for about $5-10 on the dark web, you can purchase millions of email addresses. In terms of they may only have 0.5% of individuals logging in and getting back their passwords, but how many of you on this call probably utilize the same password for 10, 15, maybe even 20 accounts? I'd say quite a lot of you. How many of you use a password locker to sort of try and keep your password safe? I'd say very few. And I've even amongst cybersecurity professionals, I know it's not a common practice. So I'm going to flick back to the slides now. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of an insight into sort of and as I mentioned, that is just one of the practical elements of the hundreds that we cover off in or the hundreds of labs that we cover off in the Certified Ethical Hacker, and we will be sending that out for you guys to have a go at, and I will do a more in-depth short video on that. And just to showcase to you some of the examples, these are two examples of which sort of recently sort of come out. So we've got on the left there, they always tend to be sort of in the UK, something which comes out around April, which is sort of when we do our tax returns from HMRC. Please click here for your tax rebate. A lot of people fall for that one. It's a similar sort of thing. Here's your tax rebate for COVID-19, and then on the right there's an email from the CDC stating, please send this in Bitcoin. So the one on the left slightly more professional, the one on the right quite clearly a bit more of a scam. But ultimately, it sort of comes back to it. Those sorts of phishing attacks are very, very easy to start rolling out and make look professional. So I want to run on through EC Council track. So the Certified Ethical Hacker is part of our core offering of cybersecurity courses a week, and then it is a very broad course. And ultimately, the idea is to give you enough knowledge so that you can specialize and transition into other areas. This is just one example of our vulnerability assessment and penetration testing track. So not only is there the theoretical exams, there's also practical exams as well. And it is in terms of sort of your career development, there are certifications and courses that you can run throughout your career. And ultimately, the idea is to transition into sort of that expert level. And I'm going to the key features of CH. I think one of the things that I just want to the rest speak for themselves in terms of sort of who we are and the sort of accolades that we have. But in terms of the most important, I think, is the hands-on program. All employers are looking for individuals with hands-on skills, and if you sort of are running through all the necessary labs and also sort of passing the practical exams, it's a very, very strong position for you to sort of emerge with those sorts of certifications. Who's looking for cybersecurity professionals? This is the slide that I mentioned about from IRC Squared. You can see that globally there is a shortage of 4 million cybersecurity professionals. That Pat mentioned that 0% unemployment. That's in one of my slides as well. But one of the things that I like to say is that ultimately cybersecurity is security is kind of it has no boundaries. It isn't tied to any sort of geography, and especially if you look at sort of where the shortages are, you guys are sort of based out in APAC is where there's the largest percentage of shortage of cybersecurity professionals. And in terms of the employment opportunities, I apologise, I did not pull any for Australia, but in terms of, there's some ones from the UK here, which are basically pretty much every sector across government, banking, and even the cosmetics and shipping industries are looking for cybersecurity professionals. As a sort of side point, Maersk, and we trained a number of Maersk cybersecurity engineers last year, because in 2017 Maersk lost $300 million in a cyber attack. Their whole internal infrastructure was destroyed. So that covered 25,000 PCs, 2,000 servers, all the applications loaded on those PCs, completely destroyed. They had to throw $300 million to replace all of that, which is just an eye-watering figure. How many companies have the sort of the deep enough pockets to do that? And not very many. And in terms of sort of other ones, this is just a few more European, but ultimately in terms of cybersecurity is the certification game. All the certifications that you gain can be utilized globally, and that is something which is incredibly exciting. And just to I sort of run over a little bit, but in terms of why choose a career in cybersecurity, the two which really stick out for me, and I know we've touched on the others, are there's a huge variety of roles. So if you're maybe if you have leadership skills, if you come from a project management background, if you're looking to go down the more technical route, there are positions for everyone in cybersecurity, and with such transferable skills. So it's not just sort of about the deep dive technical stuff. There is a lot wider ranging number of roles, but having a good strong base knowledge is obviously something which is highly desirable, and that is something which is covered in our core courses like our network defender and ethical hacking courses, and naturally what comes with that, where it's simple basic economics, low supply, high demand, ultimately drives the price up. So the high salaries are obviously something which are particularly attractive. And that's it. So please do reach out to me or add me on LinkedIn, and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. I did get about 30 emails yesterday from the one that we did for the European region. So we'll try not address as many of those as possible, but the learning people will be on hand to answer as many of your questions as possible. But Pat, do you want to transition to the career stuff before we dive into the questions?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Philip. That was really interesting. I thought one of the stats that jumped off for me was just the number of vacancies within the APAC region versus the rest of the region. We all know that there are huge demand for cybersecurity professionals worldwide. There you go. Thank you. Very, very efficient. But to see that over half of that demand is unfulfilled through the APAC region really speaks, I think, to a number of things, but certainly to what we're seeing as an organisation, the number of people inquiring about careers in cybersecurity. So that number definitely rings true for us at Learning People. The next thing to talk through is our career services offering. So what, all very well that we have a sector, an industry that has huge demand for cybersecurity professionals, but that's one thing. What matters most, if you're transitioning into a career in cybersecurity, there is a process you need to follow. And another statistic, we're throwing statistics at you tonight, but one of the statistics that is often quoted, certainly in the UK, is that almost 70% of jobs that are available are not posted on job boards. There are other processes and systems that you need to follow in order to find those jobs and successfully make a transition into a career in tech and cybersecurity. And of course, we've helped many people, and there's none better at doing exactly that than Julia. So Julia, I'll let you talk through the career services offering. Beg your pardon, Jules. I can't hear you. Sorry, guys. Can you?
Yeah, I am now. Sorry, had been muted. I couldn't unmute myself. Hi everyone. I'm Julia from the Learning People. I'm the head of the Career Services Division for Asia Pacific. My background, I've got just under 20 years of experience within recruitment. And my role within the business with the Learning People is to support our students to navigate the employment market, because it is a little bit different in IT in comparison to other industries. So I will support you through that process. So we do roll it out over 3 phases. Initially, we start you by supporting you in changing your CV and LinkedIn profile. Whether you've got a technical background or if you're completely non-technical, that's fine. I will help you showcase those skills and your certifications to explain that transition in your career as well. So with the second phase of it all, it's all about networking. So it's all about understanding where to put your information on what platforms, what profiles to upload, as well as utilising it effectively and networking with the correct people, either industry experts, community pages, recruitment agencies, or even following businesses that you're wanting to get employed by. The final phase of it all is really interview preparation. So I'll help you with understanding the questions that could be asked and giving you the tools and techniques of behavioural-based interviewing, as well as what happens a lot within tech recruitment, as well as that you are tested. As Philip was saying before, with having those hands-on technical skills, it's a requirement or a necessity within the industry because you are tested on it within the interview process as well. So our job at the Learning People is to get you job ready by you achieving your certifications, passing your examinations, so you've got the technical skills, and then also with me to successfully help you gain employment. So say, for example, the types of organisations that our students have been gaining employment in have been the Department of Defence, Telstra, Vodafone, Sony, and some quite boutique cybersecurity consultancies as well. Ironically, because of the level of the value of the EC Council Certified Ethical Hacking certification as well, a lot of our students are getting hired even before completing the certification. So because they've got that name on their resume, they are getting called up for interview knowing that they're going to achieve that as well and gaining employment from it. So that's, I suppose, within the IT industry, the value is in the certification that you hold. And that's the goal that's going to get you employment, and that's going to build up on your technical skills. I think that's about it.
Great. Thanks very much, Jules. And you've heard it from both Philip and Julia, the need to be able to demonstrate that you've got practical skills is really going to make the difference when you're transitioning from a career which is outside of cybersecurity into a career in cybersecurity. It really is important that you're able to show that you've got the capacity and the aptitude and a base level of skills in order to make that transition. And that's very much of the core of what we do as a business, and why we've partnered with EC Council so effectively over a number of years. Guys, I would invite you to start sending some questions through. I have already received a bunch. Mike, I've got some questions. Before we jump into the questions, did you want to just introduce yourself and talk through what you're up to in APAC?
Yeah, no problems at all. So I'm Mike Gear. I've been working within this industry now for over 20 years. We've got a really great team here. We have an amazing career services team, amazing student care team. Our goal is to get people trained, certified, and into jobs. That's our focus, as opposed to a lot of organisations where it's just the focus is on the training and see you later. Our student care team works with students from the start right through to the finish. Career services then gets them put into jobs. So I suppose a number of people ask us, can I get into the industry without, experience or technical skills? The majority of the people that come to Learning People are industry changers. So they've come from retail, law, there's chefs, all different sorts of industries. So the majority of our students would be, industry changers wanting to upskill, and look at the demand for cybersecurity at the moment is through the roof. There are more jobs available than there are candidates. So as Pat and Philip have covered, if you are looking at making an industry change, now is the time. Yes, there are 2.6 million unfilled roles within Asia Pacific. We currently have about 7% of the required people in Australia. So the market is desperate. If you've got good transferable skills, if you've got good communication skills, good leadership, problem solving, any of those sorts of areas, and you've always thought about getting into tech, now is the time. In my 20 years plus, I've never seen a market more desperate for candidates. So yeah, we would love to have you on board.
Great, thanks, Mike. So I'll run through some questions now, but they're speaking to exactly what you've just raised. So we'll just jump straight in. This one's for you, Mike, from Tyrone. Which one matters most to get you started in the cybersecurity industry? A college degree or industry certification? I'll be starting as a junior.
Did he say a university degree or industry certification?
Yeah, college, university degree or industry certification. Yeah.
Yeah, look, if someone was wanting a career change now and they haven't started at university within tech, my advice would 100% be get certified with the EC Council for a number of reasons. Look, I'm from a university background myself, but to be honest with you, if you are wanting to move into the industry within the next 6 months, there's no point doing a 3-year theoretical degree where at the end of that degree, you're going to have to get certified anyway to get in. In saying that, if you are completing your last year of university at the moment, my advice would be complete your degree, but you must get certified again to have a good show. Now, the reason for this is quite simple. Degrees are very theoretical. What employers are wanting is they want candidates with the technical skills now so that they are job ready. They don't want to take you on and train you. You will obviously get training on the job, but essentially they want a validation of technical skills. So as Philip's alluded to, your training is half practical. So you are going into labs, you are making mistakes, you are practicing over and over and over so that you've got the tech skills to get in. If you are certified internationally with the EC Council, it means you've sat the same examination as someone in the UK, US, Asia Pacific. So yes, you can work locally within Australia or you can work globally as well. So my advice would be, if you are looking to get in, if you are looking as an industry changer and you're looking at getting in now, my advice would be 100% EC Council certification, vendor certification.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Mike. Philip, you must be glad to hear that recommendation. Got another question actually for you, Philip. I'm currently studying coding. Does cybersecurity require coding skills?
So I think having coding skills does help in terms of so if you're sort of going into the more deep dive technical stuff. Yeah, coding is a lot of cybersecurity professionals have, especially the more technical individuals, have started at that coding level, but I have very limited knowledge of coding, and I've seemed to have managed to get by okay in terms of even on just sort of a very base level sort of consultancy work that we do for around across the European region. So I'd say coding is obviously very, very beneficial in having that technical knowledge, and I know that you guys obviously provide coding options as well. But in terms of it's a great prerequisite knowledge to have, but it's not completely fundamental.
Great, thanks, Philip. Julia, there's one here for you, which is how easy is it to get your foot in the door after getting qualified?
It's relatively straightforward. As I mentioned before, our students are getting picked up because of the certifications that they've got on their CV, no matter what background that they have, whether it is a technical background or not. So it's all about giving our students the right tools with the certification training that they'll be doing, the lab work that they'll be doing and things like that. And then it is a stepping stone in the right direction to get in the door. So it is relatively straightforward. You just have to have the right qualifications. It's absolutely necessary to have the right qualifications.
great, which is quite a topical topic because we're getting quite a number of questions around how do I get into the industry without experience, which I think we've just spoken through. Mike, I've got one which is how often do we likely need retraining? So I suspect that's around once you've got a certification, do you need to continually update your skill set throughout your career?
Yeah, again, over my years, when you get into a job, if you are happy staying at that level, a lot of people don't upskill very much, and the downside, I suppose, to that is that 5 or 10 years later they're doing a very similar position. We speak to a lot of sort of basic second level support or first level support who have never upskilled, and so 10 years on they're still sitting on a help desk. If you want to progress your way up within the career, within your career, yes, you've got to continually keep yourself upskilled. It's sort of a no-brainer. Do you have to recertify every 6 months or every year? No, but I mean, as you're progressing through your career, if you are aiming for the next level up, if you're wanting to move into, senior positions, then, keep your technical skills high, learn, always be learning, upgrade your skills and you will move up. A lot of people get to a sort of point in their career where they're happy and, they're comfortable in a senior position and that's where they want to get to. But yeah, look, within tech, obviously you've got to keep your skills current because things change. Hackers find new ways of getting into organisations on a regular basis. So yes, it's important that you keep up with what they're doing so that you can defend your organisation and properly. So, and I suppose, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And to your point, I think there's a real cadence of qualifications. So there are entry-level qualifications, and there's the next step that if you want to, and we would encourage you to take further education just to keep your skill set up to date and really marketable, because there's no question that as you rise up the ranks, the opportunities both from a earning potential and from a career choice increase exponentially.
I mean, in regards to salaries and contract rates and stuff, I mean, we're dealing with a lot of recruiters, in Australia, within Melbourne, Victoria, New South Wales. We're looking at, SOC analyst positions, entry level is around 90,000. Ethical hackers, the average salary is 140 to 160. The demand is huge. Like, we don't have enough people. So, as I've said before, if you're, in regards to the question before from, I think, Tyrone saying, should I do a degree or should I do an international certification? Get yourself certified now. We're getting people into roles within sort of, 3 to 6 months. By that stage, by the time you will have finished your 3-year degree, you're in a very senior position with, 2.5 years of commercial experience at a high level. So, again, no-brainer.
Great. I'm conscious of time because we are overrunning, although we have a very sticky group of people who are staying with us. I will just ask one more. As I said, I think we've answered a lot of the questions because we are getting quite a few coming through, and it's all around career changing and how do I get that first job. And I think you guys have done a great job talking that through. But we'll start with the last one. I guess this is probably one for you, Mike. Again, I'm semi-retired mechanical engineer looking for a career change. Is this course for beginners? For beginners, need to learn how to read. And if I have the interest, will this be the right course for me? So, in short, semi-retired as a mechanical engineer looking for a career change. How easy is it to transition across? And I think also the question is, with that kind of a background, does that put me in good stead?
Well, yeah, I mean, a mechanical engineer's obviously got amazing problem-solving skills, so that's an amazing transferable skill from the get-go. A lot of students, or a lot of people that come to us again worry, is age a factor? Is that what you're saying, semi-retired?
Yeah.
Look, age is irrelevant. It comes down to your technical skills. And again, look, a lot of people haven't done training. If someone's a mechanical engineer that hasn't trained for maybe, say, 15 years, again, they're nervous. The advantage of how we train people is that we support you, as I said, right through. So would it be hard for them to get into the industry? No. You need the right support, you need the right training organisation to make sure that you are supported, you feel comfortable, you're looked after, and you are helped to get into the industry. So you're bringing a lot of transferable skills into the industry. Now all you need is the technical skills and the international certifications and the right amount of support and advice to move you into the industry. So short answer, obviously, you know, give me a ring.
Yeah, great. I think mechanical engineering is an outstanding background to have for a career in cyber for sure. I'll finish it up, but one more question, and I think this is really pertinent. Julia, I think it's for you. This is from a Philip. I have no doubt there are many positions for experienced people, but where are the entry-level type positions being advertised?
That's a tricky one because a lot of the entry-level roles aren't advertised. That's where the supportive career services will support you with that process of knowing what to do. It's using the job platforms now and waiting for a job to come up on one of them is you shouldn't do it. You would be silly to, because you wouldn't be employed effectively, and a lot of the jobs that are on those platforms are not even real as well. So because IT recruiters have challenges in recruiting people, getting hold of the talent, they use other methods, a lot of headhunting, candidate mapping, networking within the industry, and networking with training providers such as us. So I will coach you through that process of how to tackle it, because if you are just directly relying on job boards to provide you with that feedback for roles within the industry, it will provide you with a really poor outlook.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jules. Actually, I can echo that from some personal experience. I was in Manchester, this was a number of months ago, and caught up with one of our students, and they're now working as a cybersecurity analyst for a major bank. And what they said to me was, I thought it was out of reach for me, a career in cybersecurity, but now look at me, and he'd come from working as a scaffolder. So I think that's the kind of story that we absolutely love at Learning People. It's kind of why we set the business up in the first instance, and we would love to be able to help as many people as possible to transition into a career in tech. If nothing else, we truly believe this is a really good thing for our communities and the world of which we live, because jobs are changing, they are transitioning, and we are in a unique position to take advantage of the opportunities as they stand right in front of us. I think we'll finish off now. Thank you all very much for your participation, obviously to the panelists, but more importantly to those that have made the time to jump on and spend the best part of an hour with us. Obviously, you've got Learning People, the address and details on which you can contact us, and we look forward to working with you over time. Thanks all. Good morning from us, and good night to you guys.